And
also, we don't really treat this like an interview, Mason. It's really more like
that's good.
We're going to ask you some questions that will let the listeners know who you are.
Right.
But we're not. This isn't like a
post-race interview or not.
This isn't a post-race interview. This isn't 12 questions with Jeff Gluck, which is a segment we love and listen to regularly. But it's not that. This is, hey, Mason, you seem like a cool guy that's in racing. Why don't you come co-host our podcast? And you're going to answer all the same questions we answer and talk all the same topics we do. And we're going to let listeners know who you are on the front end. And that's really what it is. It's a conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I listen to like a ton of podcasts. Like Joe Rogan's the one I always sort of
I listen to him all the time.
Yeah, because he's like the number one guy in the world, right? It's not, this isn't an interview. It's a discussion. It's a conversation.
Conversation. Candid.
Yeah. So the one thing to note at the beginning, we'll start playing our music, and that music does not pipe to you usually, but I've been told that you'll be able to hear us yelling and screaming and doing all our crazy stuff, but you won't be able to hear us. You won't be able to hear the music playing in the background, so it'll kind of sound silent for 15, 20 seconds, and then we'll start screaming and yelling. You'll know when we bring you in because it'll be very obvious. So,
and I'm pretty sure it's the only mainstream country song that the first word of the song is Talladega.
Yeah. So if you go back and hear that.
I mean, I love Eric Church's Talladega song, but it doesn't start with the word Talladega.
Good point. Got some folks joining on. What's up, everybody? Be sure to join us in the live comment section. We'll be answering questions.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the cool things about what we do. I make a mess of Twitter on show day, but there is a discussion feed that people can follow, and we actually will react to it during the show. It's about 6 or 8 seconds behind the live broadcast, but it's fun. We'll sometimes shoot an extra question in where somebody's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then we're like, "Hey, how you doing?
What's going down?" Just on show day, he says. Yeah, Roger, just on show day for that. Maybe not. Let's see. I'm going to do some level checks right quick. Check. Mine looks good.
Check.
Yep, that looks good.
I really should do that with like my medium voice. But you know what I noticed, though, is like my laugh is so freaking loud, it'll like start popping the speaker.
I think that's like with air pushing at the mic.
Yeah, I need to like turn away from it when I start laughing.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works. It's all good. Let's see. So we got folks coming on. Thank you for joining, everybody. And before he just hangs up on us for being bored to death, I think we're about ready to start. Mason, are you ready to roll?
Oh, yeah.
Sherwin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Mason, I'll say we're recording now, and that's when everything, the mics are hot and all that stuff. So, how did we get like a? Oh Lord! Orange Cone trying to throw us off kilter. I think it worked for sure.
Yeah, definitely did.
All right.
Same subject matter as normal, but it's still weird.
On that bombshell. Let's do it. We are recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 149. It's Thursday, May 31st, 2018. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. This is 149 in a row that I have not prepared an opening statement, but that is intentional at this point.
Right? I was going to say one after the other. I think that is your opening now.
Yeah,
I don't have an opening. I don't know what to do.
I refuse to participate in this particular part of the show.
Well, I've got one opening here. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM, join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month to get that free koozie. Best part is every cent in 2018 we're donating to sponsored drivers. So join that PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. I'm already out of breath, so this is going to be a mess. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsor at the $5 and up per month level. That is David Patterson, Laura Henshaw, Harry Bazania, Mick Rose, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Tony Salt, Kobe McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Mayor, and the best, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brendan Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brendan Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, Jumpy Bob, and Les Miller, Jason Rudd, Tommy Witt, Mark Wiley, and Julia Bosley. Thank y'all.
That's amazing.
So much.
By the way, to all you wonderful people who are in that read, guess what? Tonight is opening night of Thursday Night Thunder at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Oh, my.
And your driver, Jensen Jorgensen, started from the pole.
Of course he did. What a machine, man. What a machine.
That dude's crazy good.
And so we'll have to see what comes up, and I'm sure he's going to give us the updates and everything. That is so cool. I just got goosebumps thinking about that. But enough about talking about other people. Let's talk about our guest tonight. Dude, I'm super excited about this one. This is the first time I think we've had a champion. Well, other than Jensen. Jensen's he
was series champion.
Yep,
for sure.
Yep. But our guest tonight, he is the 23-year-old, and I only mention that age for a reason I'll get to in a minute, owner-driver of the number 78 in the ARCA Series, 3 wins, 7 poles, 2014 ARCA Series champion. On Twitter at @TheMasonRacing and _race. Welcome to the show, Mason Mitchell. Mason, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. It's going to be a blast.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're super excited to get started. Before we do get started, Mason, and I mean, usually we like to get to know our guests and stuff, but the only way we really get to know them to start with is our first segment. What you drinking on tonight?
Right now, to be specific, I have a Members Mark purified little bottle of water.
The Members Mark, you're going fancy on us tonight.
Yeah, little Sam's Club.
Yes, sir.
Sam's
very
Club.
familiar with the Members Mark and the. What's the other one they got? That they have it. Is it Walmart, Kirkland?
It's good. Yeah. What is a great?
Great Value is
great
another
value.
one. Yeah,
that's it.
That's my people, man.
Yeah.
We always buy that when we're at Bristol.
Yes,
a big
sir.
old case of waters.
What you drinking on tonight, Sherwin?
Drinking on a budget.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, we got our normal. I think everybody knows that we drink now. Like open the show with our mixed drink with our Coke and Beam, but because we like to get specific to the track that we're coming to, I have a Pennsylvania beer here. One you mentioned recently.
I did.
One of the very few that, or maybe the only one that I'm aware of, that the primary grain is corn, made in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. That's Rolling Rock.
The
lager.
Rolling Rock. Love it.
Or extra pale lager.
Well, I should say, prior to a few weeks ago, I thought I hated it, but it's actually
it's different.
Not bad. I don't know.
It's crispy. It's a good warm weather beer.
I'm okay with it, yeah. And Sherwin, I've got our local guys, Terrapin, put out something they call the Good to Goza. So it's a nice little...
Oh, that's like one of those soury kind of...
It's kind of like salty, soury, briny ale, or not ale, but lager. It's good.
Something.
Stacy.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into those things, too.
I hear you. So with that, let's introduce Mason to the PETM posse. Mason, so I mentioned your age earlier, and I don't know if that is like good or bad or kosher. We didn't even talk about that. But you've had, I mention it because the career that you have had at your age thus far is something to be envied by legends of the sport. It's incredible. A championship, multiple wins. You own a team. You fielded cars for Austin Wayne Self, John West Townley, just to name a few. Grant Enfinger. How did that ride start, and how has that ride been?
Well, it's been one heck of a journey without a doubt. It all started when we started our team in the end of 2013, going into 14, and that was when I was driving full time. And like you said, went out there in our first year, won the championship, and it was a little crazy at first because you have all odds stacked against you. Your first year team, underrated driver. I feel like at the time I was, and just you're not supposed to go out there and succeed like we did, and we were literally from the get-go at Daytona. Competing for wins, and we ended up getting fortunate enough to win the championship, and then that one step led into another, and that was just where we ended up becoming a development team and filling rides in for drivers coming up through the series and stepping stone, which has been a pretty good deal for us. We've picked up multiple wins every year, and we finished second points the second year as a team, and then we've just had an arrangement with drivers. So it's been an interesting journey without a doubt, but it's been fun, and we're looking to keep on going forward.
Now, remind me, how many points can you get in a single race? Like if you lead all the laps and you're on the pole and you win the thing?
I don't know to be exact. It's the old school point system, like Cup used to use post or pre 2004. It's a lot. That's all I know. Like 200.
Well, and it was like 195 in the old Cup system. I think.
Okay. Because what I'm trying to get at is what I read was that you won the championship not just by a little, but by 255 points, meaning more than a race. So that's huge.
You kicked their butts.
It was a good year. Grant and Finger and myself had a great battle all year. Battling back and forth with the points lead multiple times, and then towards the end of the year, we kind of started structuring it out, and then we got fortunate there with some things went our way, and we were able to capture it.
What's your so now you're a team owner? You said development series and stuff. What's your day like today? What do you do on a daily basis going into everything? I know right now you told us you're at the hotel room in Pocono, so obviously going to the tracks and stuff and getting prepped and everything. What's your day like?
Yeah, well, this week, for instance, last Thursday we raced at Charlotte, and then we had a quick turnaround. We had to leave Tuesday morning for the Pocono test this Wednesday, yesterday, and then today it wasn't an off day. We had full tech inspection, and tomorrow's race day with practice qualifying race. So, the past week's been hectic for everyone involved. For my side of it, I'm involved in more so the office work, but I'm also involved in stuff down in the shop, competition side. We have competition meetings pre and post each race. I'm involved in ordering parts, all the billing, the accounting side of it, working with the drivers, but I take a lot of. I don't want to take any of the credit. It's all about having good people around you. You're only as good as the people you're surrounding yourself with. So as far as the management team, we have a lot of good people and staff, and then just the crew guys, the crew chiefs here. Everybody's done a pretty good job so far this year. We've had a lot of good runs. Just need to cap off, and get that win that everybody wants to do. But it's been a pretty solid year, and at times it can be hectic like this week. But everybody's dealt with the same cards. Just got to have the best luck with them.
So the picture that we have on the YouTube right now is of you hoisting the trophy at Pocono. Tell us about
American as a trophy can get too.
Oh, no kidding! It's a bald eagle on top of it. There's a flag behind it. Oh my goodness! Gotta love that. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Pocono. What I guess what's unique about Pocono, where we're going. Well, we'll talk about Pocono a bit more coming up, but obviously the 3 turns. But what's different racing there than everywhere else?
Well, you mentioned it right there. 3 turns. It could be. They don't call it the tricky triangle for nothing. So I remember I was talking to my drivers today because we had a interesting test session to say the least. Unfortunately, we had to go to a backup car with one of my teams, and the other team was just the driver's first time here, just learning and getting more comfortable with the car. So I was talking to him. I remember my first time coming here. I was so out to lunch in the test session, and then just kept on improving, got better throughout practice, got better out throughout the qualifying, and then the race time. At one point, I was a lap down, and then we ended up getting back in the lead lap, and I ended up finishing 5th. So you just learn so much here in the race because you get around other cars and you learn their techniques. There's so many different ways to approach these corners, and it's 3 very distinct corners, and they drive so much different. So it makes it difficult for a crew chief to have a really good car because you need to work on different areas of the corners. But it's hard for a driver, especially your first time coming here, because it's a really tricky track. You have to approach the corners so differently than you've ever been used to, and that's what makes it difficult. But we'll be fine in the race. I'm looking forward to it, and this is honestly one of my favorite tracks. I'm a little biased. My favorite track's Iowa because that's my home, but this is probably up there in the top 3 for sure.
Well, so does it hold true for you in the ARCA series and your experience, the way the Cup guys will talk about Pocono is you kind of have to back the corners up, and I don't mean like lift early. I mean number 3 is the most important because it's like a 975,000 mile front straightaway there, so you have to get off 3 well, and then like maybe 2 matters more because you got to carry speed into 3 in order to get off 3 well, and then maybe you worry yourself a little less with 1 outside of braking, because obviously that's an issue. And then in the ARCA car, do you guys shift between the short shoot and also the approach to 3?
No, we don't shift, which ARCA doesn't have a gear roll like NASCAR, and then the rev limiter is a little bit lower than NASCAR stuff. But, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there of thinking about turn 3 first, and then 2 and 1. 1's a pretty simple corner, to be honest, in my opinion. 2 is the most technical one because of the tunnel and how short of a turn it is. You just got to be so committed there. And then 3, you just have to focus on having your car being able to turn and get back to the gas early, because the front straightaway you can sing the whole Freebird song down it, and before you turn 1.
So is it easy to get distracted because of how long does it take to get from the exit of 3 to the entrance of 1? How long are you on throttle?
Well, I mean, a whole lap, in qualifying is 53 seconds, but so I mean, you're probably on this front straightaway for at least 20 seconds.
Wow.
I was gonna say 17, but 20 is probably more.
That's nuts. Yeah, and you're right, Sherwin. I think you get it. Maybe not distracted, but maybe distracted where you go, oh shoot, I was supposed to lift, right there. You got to be paying so much attention to that.
Oh yeah.
That, and it's 10 lanes wide, so restarts are absolutely bonkers.
Right.
Oh, I love the restart.
Yeah. So you've talked about your team a couple times. What's the makeup of the team this year in 2018? You've mentioned you've got a couple drivers there and crew chiefs and all that. Who's the names in Mason Mitchell Racing this year? Yeah,
well, we have Max Tolman. He's racing 7 races right now with us. Ryan Repko is racing with us. Blaine Perkins, he's racing with us. He's ran Talladega with us this past year, and he's running this weekend. Pocono Quinn Half is racing with us. He just raced Daytona and Charlotte this past week with us. Colby Howard raced earlier this year at Salem. So that's about our whole lineup right now. There's going to be probably a couple more additions to the team later in the year, but right now it's our main roster. And as far as crew chief wise, Mark Setzer's the crew chief of the 78 when Max Tolman doesn't run, and then he's the crew chief of the 98 when Max is running. And Max's crew chief is Doug Richard, which obviously probably is a recognizable name from the NASCAR circuit.
Sir. That's super cool. Here's something I'm always interested in. Is there any meaning behind the numbers, the 78 and the 98?
Well, I mean, yes and no. When we first started the team, ARCA is similar to NASCAR as far as number allotment.
Mm-hmm.
The team owns the number and stuff. It's not like late model racing or any other type of race where you can just kind of run whatever number you want to. So you have to own the number. So the availability wise wasn't a lot of options out there, and I'm being a race fan all my life. I'm I shouldn't say I'm a history buff, but I know a lot about the sport, and the 98 number was available, and I knew Benny Parsons ran that number in ARCA, and he ran it in NASCAR as well. He's actually, I believe, still to this day, the only driver to ever win an ARCA title and a NASCAR title. And so I decided, which I guess won't be true when it switches to NASCAR soon, but but so I kind of chose it for that reason a little bit, just because of Benny, and then we had the 78 as well, which is just I wanted to keep them 78, 98. We also have the 88 number. We don't run too often, but they all have 8s in them, so that's a little bit of the meaning.
Oh, that's cool. I always love hearing those stories if there is one behind it, but that's awesome with the Benny Parsons deal. So, Sherwin, with that, I think we've made our introductions. Let's go ahead and start the show. Start with
everybody knows who Mason is. You can actually start participating in the show.
That's right.
We do.
That's right. So we're tearing it down. We've got tons of stuff to talk about with 1,360 miles of racing this weekend. Mason, how much of that were you able to consume yourself?
Oh, a good bit. I wasn't able to keep in contact with all of it. I watched a little bit of Monaco. I watched a little bit of Indy 500. I watched most of the 600, but I'm not going to lie, that race is so long.
We'll get to that shortly, as it turns out. We have a report card segment right here, Mason, so we'll get into the report card. There's 5 periods and a recess. The grade, the objective is you just give everything a grade, and it doesn't matter if it's A through F. That's, pretty standard. If you want to give something a Z or a 6 or a zebra, it doesn't matter. So whatever you want to give it, that's up to you. But we'll make it fun. They pretty much made it easy for me this week, Sherwin.
Well, because you got 3 different series.
3 different series,
and then
3 different races.
A secondary question and then a recess.
Right? It's super easy. So let's start the way the week started, or the weekend started, with F1 at Monaco, where we had Ricciardo and Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen finishing that order at Monaco. Sherwin, I don't know about you. I actually did watch. Now, I didn't watch Monaco live, but I watched every lap on the replay immediately after the 500 without having consumed any. Like, I stayed off of Twitter and stuff to make sure I didn't see who won.
I thought that was really a smart move by ESPN on ABC to do that, so that people would get to see it. And so what I would say is I did get up. When I walked downstairs and turned the TV on, they had just completed lap 2.
Okay.
So I missed 2.1 miles at the 1,360.
Well, something I always forget, by the way. The one thing you missed, and this is the only F1 race I really ever watch. When they come to the U.S., I try to watch, But I always forget they do the start from the blocks.
The standing start.
Yeah, the standing start.
The dumbest thing I've ever seen in motorsports. I don't understand why that's a thing.
And off they go. It's like freaking horse racing.
How have they not killed more people doing that?
Right?
It's ridiculous.
For cars like that.
And how F1 fans that maybe some cross promo, not as much as probably the other way around, going to listen to this and go, well, these guys rednecks. They don't know what they're talking about. It's like, it's like that tradition thing. Like the guys from ATF sent us that rolling a cheese wheel down the side of a mountain and people go running after it. I'm like, that's like the Pamplona bull thing. It's like tradition. Yeah. Just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid.
Well, and imagine NASCAR. There would be like 20 of the guys would stall to start with because they're everybody's trying to get off the line. Everybody's spinning the tires, so now your tires are junk.
Well, and there's 3 more gears to go through that are mechanically switched. It's
this isn't software.
It's not electronic. You don't have a magnesium plate magnetic gear shift. Like if you might spin the tires in first, and then you might shift in the second. Maybe you actually go all the way to fourth because you crossed the gate accidentally. It would be absolute chaos, which wouldn't be cool because only half the cars would even start the race.
I'd like to see it, like in theory, one time. If
at the All-Star race, let's do it at the All-Star race.
Everything at the All-Star.
Hell, we've done everything else,
right? Mason, give us a grade for the F1 race at Monaco.
I'll say B.
You say B. How about some color around that?
Color to go with that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't watch F1 too often, but it just I feel like it went green the whole way, didn't it?
Yes,
I believe
they only
so.
had situational cautions.
Yeah, they had partial
corner cautions.
So, I don't know. That struck me a little bit. And I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan, so not seeing him win was a bummer.
They were really the only ones I thought that tried any strategy. So he dropped about 3 positions, but because of their strategy, he gained them all back.
Right.
He's really the only one in the top 4 that didn't maintain his position for the entirety of the race. There was a guy, and I didn't remember the name because to me it really doesn't matter a lot, but there was a guy that started way near the back. They got all the way up to score a point, which – for those listening that don't really understand F1 all that well.
That includes me.
Yeah, only the first 10 drivers actually score points. So scoring points in an F1 race is actually a huge deal. So, one of the things you'll see if you go Wikipedia a F1 driver is it'll tell you how many points they scored in their career, and because that matters.
Yeah.
Because the back half of the field doesn't score any points. If they started 17 cars, 7 of those cars didn't even score any points that even matter. And the reason why that matters, I found out this week because I didn't know, is if you score a point in F1 will foot your travel bill for the year.
Jeez.
So it is a monstrous deal for a back-running car to score a point.
Huh. All that stuff, man. So what's your grade?
I'm going to give it a C in terms of visual quality because it just doesn't Monaco has the car has surpassed what Monaco can deliver in terms of excitement. Mm-hmm. There are no passing zones at Monaco because it's so tight. Well, it's so short, and
tight is the big thing. It's like at the most, it's like 2.5 car lengths wide. It seems like with those giant cars. And there's when are you going to pass in the corner? Well, in the corner it gets down to like 1.5 wide.
Well, yeah. To your point, you said it right. Is the width is very narrow, but those cars are super long. They're like
cars
15
are gigantic.
feet long.
Yeah, they're huge cars.
They're like 3 feet longer than a Cup car.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. From the perspective of how do I outbrake somebody and make a pass? Well, there's no room to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give this a rusty Z in terms of enjoyment. And it doesn't get a Z minus. This is the premier race, much like in NASCAR, Daytona is a premier race. And I'm probably 50% on liking and disliking Daytona races versus other racetracks that always put on a great show, right?
Martinsville.
Right, exactly. I've never given Martinsville a Z. But man, F1 is not something that the casual viewer can tune into and enjoy, in my opinion, for something like that. You come into it and they start talking about these weird rules, their DDS or whatever that weird thing is, like, F1 has turned on the thing where people can now pass better. And you're like, what is that? There's some switch up in the booth that makes things happen. I don't even remember what it is.
I think it's a wing. It adjusts something in the tail wheel.
Yeah. And then they're like, the penalties are weird as crap. Oh, he did a Wikishire on the
I'm just like Ricky Booker
on the frontal macular, and you're like, and now he has to come through for a 10-second penalty, and you're going, what did he do? He just raced. What are you talking about? Oh, well, he cut that guy off. You're like, that's something that like I get mad at it on my road. This is racing. You cut people off. Like, geez. Yeah. And so it's very difficult to get casually into it. And you've already said it, and I call it parade laps. I mean, this is really about qualifying at Monaco.
It's about qualifying, and it's about getting to turn one.
Yeah. If from that standing start, that's so weird. But here's a stat: the first position change from when they qualified, the first car that didn't finish where it qualified was 7th place. Now, you mentioned already that Hamilton dropped back and then he got the spots back, so that's not exactly fair. There was some passing there.
Yeah, but that was like a tire strategy. They went and got the softer tires.
Yeah. And Ricardo did have some, like, it sounded like some electrical issues at some point, but that got figured out.
He lost 7th gear, and like there was a piece of audio that said his team was like, "Oh, you ought to bring it in or whatever," and he's like, "No, I'm going to run it." But the missing point on that is, and I got all kinds of shit on Twitter about this opinion.
Dropping the S-bomb early.
Started early. I'll try to curtail that. But I got all kinds of crap from people on Twitter about how, well, he didn't even have 7th gear. And I'm like, if they spent 2 seconds in 7th gear on the best tires they had all race, I would be shocked. 7th gear didn't matter at Monaco because it's not fast enough.
Right. It's so much. I mean, the fastest they're going, what was it, 200 kilometers an hour? 175 miles an hour is the well, I mean, I guess that's pretty.
That was peak speed.
Fast,
that's through the tunnel underneath the city.
Yeah. And that's the coolest part about that track.
And you, like, if your car's handling extremely well, you hit 7th gear for literally 2 seconds through that in that tunnel. It's like, wow, and then you're already downshifting again.
Let's move to second period. Indy 500 willpower. We said last week that they consistently put on the best show of this weekend.
Boy, they made some interesting decisions about their package.
Yeah. So Mason, let's get your breakdown of the package, and then give us a grade on that race.
Well, like Monaco, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I felt like there just wasn't as much passion as we were used to in the past. Maybe I'm wrong there, but as it's always exciting though, Indy with all the strategy involved, and of course you had Danica's last run. So I mean, I'll rate it again as a B, but it was cool to see Will Power and the captain win. Those guys are always cool, but just the whole, like, a lot of the drivers and people I was like listening to were complaining how, like, I guess everything was so on edge and how impossible it was to pass, and that's why everybody was going so hard in restart. So I don't know if they need to tune in the package, and I don't follow IndyCar that much.
Gotcha. So for me, I'm gonna give the race overall a B plus, actually, because there was 400,000 people there.
No kidding.
You got to give them a good grade for that. I'm gonna give Alexander Rossi like an A+++ for having the biggest set of nuts I've ever seen a race car driver have, for the moves he made on the outside, coming from 32nd all the way to 3rd at one point, and had a great finish. I felt like Indy had a great package the last 3 years, and they built all this momentum up coming off of the 100th running of the race, because they went through the same lull period that NASCAR did after the recession, because traveling is expensive. They built theirs all the way back up to where it was before, and maybe even more. But they showed up with a low downforce package that, as Mason's already mentioned, produced less passing. But not only that, it produced some wild, crazy, loose conditions off turn 2 and turn 4 that cost us big names in terms of finishing the race, like from an overnight perspective. We're looking at the business TV perspective. We lost Helio Castroneves, who's running for number 4. Like, it's a big deal. He's been demoted to sports cars from the IndyCar series, but he got to run the Indy 500 to shoot for number 4, because that's how big it's a big deal to do that. And we lost him. We lost Danica for the exact same wreck.
How many people got lost the car off? Was that turn 3 or 4?
There was 3 off 4 and 2 off 2, I believe.
Yeah, in solo stuff.
And there were solo wrecks, exactly.
Yep. Sherwin, I'm giving this an A. This is what I want out of racing. Give these guys a car that is more car than this track can handle. A car that you can't just mash the gas all the way through, that you've got to have some driver mentality, you've got to have some driver skill there, and let people run out of talent. I love seeing that, and I don't love seeing cars that crash all the time. I didn't like that there were 5 guys that had solo wrecks, and gals, but I really like that they're so on the edge there, and the drivers love it too. Who was the one that with shoot, this isn't even going to make sense, but afterwards he was saying, let me drive this again next year. This was so great.
I bet it was Joseph Newgarden, if I had to guess.
I can't remember who it was, but it was so cool for me to see that. Now, the passing part of it, I think maybe there's, I don't know if that's a balance where, you have more passing but less, or more passing and more downforce, or less passing and less downforce. I don't know if that's a balance thing, or if we can elevate both of those, but I really enjoyed that race. Most definitely the most enjoyable race, once again, if we compare all 3 series for me this weekend.
Oh, yeah, it's not even you don't even get to, like, make an argument anymore with as many people that have raced the race, have covered the race, have written about the race, and who talk about the race on TV. The absolute number 1 race of the greatest day in racing is the race that happens in the middle of the day, the Indy 500. And right now, it absolutely deserves to get the most attention because it draws almost 500,000 people.
It's got all this stuff. I really
It becomes the second largest city in, like, Speedway. Speedway, Indiana becomes the second largest city in Indiana on race day. That tells you all you need to know about that race.
I love that.
That tells you all you need to know about how high that race has moved up the PETM bucket list.
No kidding. No kidding. I'll be one of 400,000. Watch this. That brings us to third period with the Coke 600 and Kyle Busch winning. And by the way, so I need to go ahead and do this, Sherwin. Blowing the horn. Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
Oh, no.
That was tearing it down. Yeah, it's time to bring
the foghorn.
Yeah, here comes the horn. Here. Oh, yes. Oh, play me, baby.
It's like a foghorn with a grandpa fart at the end.
That's exactly what it is. Foghorn with it. We tried to get the most like uncelebratory sound, but still a sound to be played when we call the right driver to win the race. So I called Kyle Busch winning that race. I will take my horn every week. But let's give this over to Mason. Mason, Coke 600. You've already said you've given us your little preview, like your half sentence preview. Really love to hear what you got to say about the Coke 600.
I think I will give it like a C minus. I mean, I'm a stock car fan out of all of the races that we've talked about, but man, the Coke 600 every year, it's I don't know, just so boring for me to watch. I can't watch the whole thing. I went to a race one time there, and I was just like, oh my God, this is just going on forever, whatever. And I don't know, it just seems like with the configuration of the Charlotte now, with how the cars are so fast and so much downforce, that there's just, there is some passing and stuff like that, but it seems like a really, really boring race. And I ended up doing some laundry during the race, watching the finals game. And
I think
some guy who led most of the race, but I can attest to, Kyle Busch's dominance and everything like that. That is, you strive to be that good as a racer or a team or anything like that. So I'm not going to be one of those guys that comes on and says, well, a car shouldn't lead all those laps. Well, I don't know, that's cool to me because they have their crap together. But just the All-Star race was a lot more exciting. Obviously, we know that the package was pretty radical there, so I'm not saying to do that, but it's just such a boring race.
Yeah. So very interesting. That's with conviction a boring race. Sherwin, where are you at on the Coke 600?
I'm not there.
You're not there?
I'm not there, and it's not a deliberately defiant point of view. It's I enjoyed very much the interaction that I had with folks on the Twitter and listening to the radio. I swapped around between Clint and Casey to hear them talk about what their various
Casey had a good run for most of the race.
Casey had a pretty good run. And, I enjoyed interacting with people, and I didn't watch the TV screen that much. I thought it was cool that we basically brought a similar package to Charlotte that they brought to Indy, in that we saw cars spin out on their own, which is, that's a good thing. That means drivers are pushing to the absolute edge, and they're finding the edge. And, maybe, I guess the guy I picked was an unfortunate casualty of one of those single car spins, but that's part of racing. I thought what was really awesome is we saw tire wear matter for the first time at Charlotte in what feels like 10 years. Whenever it was they paved it. I can't remember when it was they paved it.
Boy, if that was 10 years ago, I'm old.
I don't think it was 10. I think it was more like 6.
I'm still old, but
but tires mattered, and they mattered a ton. And they weren't the reason why these guys were wrecking either. Harvick, the general consensus is if you blow a left front, it's because you ran over something that you didn't know was there. Like right front is, okay, I either overcooked the bead, overusing the brakes, or I got too aggressive with camber and I wore the inside of the tire down to the point that it blew. Harvick blew the left front, but it would have been – so the only thing I will say is it would have been nice to have Harvick make it to the end to see how well Kyle and Harvick would have competed with their cars, because it looked like they probably had very similar speed. So, and I just copied some things people said earlier.
Did you give a grade yet?
The grade I would give to the race is, you know what, I'm going to give it a B-. I thought for a Coke 600, despite the fact that the leader led 378 laps or whatever ridiculous thing it was like 2 years ago with Truex.
Yep.
It actually, in the field, was a good race.
I have fewer positive things to say about the race, but I was convinced I was going to give it a B. So I'm giving it a better grade than you did. And I don't have as many good things to say about it. I
got to kiss some motor mouth here.
No. It's funny. I enjoyed, like you, I enjoyed myself. It's a Sunday evening kind of thing. The weather was kind of crappy here in Atlanta, so it was perfect time to do that. My wife was gone hanging out with friends of hers, so this is just me and the TV and my beer and the race, and that's, the environment has so much to do with it. And then let's not forget, we saw history with Kyle Busch winning this race. He has now won all the races. Like he now.
Well, so they have made a big deal out of this. He's won at every active track. Gordon had that distinction until they added Kentucky. When they added Kentucky, and it was the same for Stewart, except for There was one other track.
That means, I mean,
I think it was Kansas and Kentucky that Stewart hadn't won on. But if you look at his wins,
it is a big deal still.
He's got 50 wins, right, or 48. We're somewhere around in there, and he's won on 23 different race surfaces. That's pretty impressive. Like Kyle,
that's incredible. I mean, we've
it
really
used to be like, okay, Kyle dominates at Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
He had won a bunch of races at Richmond, but he's won everywhere. He won.
Checked the final box
everywhere.
on places to win at. I think that's really cool. And by the way, going back to Indy 500 with Will Power, that being his first Indy win, that was super cool. I didn't mention that before. That goes into my A rating.
We definitely should.
But Will Power is the man there.
That. Will Power, the #1 shooter of birds in racing history to this point.
The greatest birds ever shot is by Will Power.
There's so many good memes going on.
I mean,
but
nobody has ever given a more aggressive double barrel.
You know what? The only person to ever give almost as good one is Kyle Busch in Texas. So there you go. We got quadruple barrels.
Held in his pit stall.
Yep, held in his pit stall, and he double barreled the official. I love it. I love it. So that actually brings up. So Mick Rose asks us a question, and I love this question. And Mason, I really want to hear your insight on this. So Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick, he says, is a battle for the lead the biggest factor in determining what is a good race? Do we need upfront racing to say this was a good race or this was a bad race? This one was a weird question for me. Not weird, but at first I had this knee-jerk reaction, and then I thought about it more, and then I thought about it more, and then the more you think about this question, it feels like, the more it's like, who am I? you go down this road. What is reality? I don't know what's going on. So, Mason, let's get your perspective as a driver, as an owner, and as a fan. Is that battle for the lead the biggest factor in what's a good race?
Well, as the driver's side, no, I don't think so. But as far as a fan, I feel like it makes the race a whole lot better when you have battling for the lead. I've been to a lot of races this year, late model races throughout Carolinas and stuff, and whenever you get battles for the lead, there's battles all the time going out to the field, but whenever you get a battle for the lead, I mean, the fans come out of their seats and people are roaring and cheering and stuff like that. I mean, you don't do that every lap for second or 10th place. So I think it's just that it's mentally, it's in your minds, like people are seeing a battle for the lead, so it's exciting. So I don't think it definitely makes or breaks the race, but it can make it a lot better for the fan value if there's more battling for the lead, in my opinion.
Sherwin, is a battle for the lead. What is that the biggest factor? He's not saying does that a litmus test, or not like are you pregnant or not, yes or no. But is that the biggest factor in determining if it's a good race?
I think it depends on how you're consuming the race. I think if you're only watching on
You took my answer. I'm not going to be able to answer now, dang it.
If you only watch on television, then yeah, I do think we need to see the lead change hands in order for people to get engaged. I think if you're watching in person, maybe I don't want to impose my perspective on all people who go to the racetrack, but when I go to the racetrack in person, I'm listening to my favorite driver and I'm watching his car almost exclusively. I hope and pray and desire for him to be the one that's P1 on the pole. But if he's not, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it might matter if he falls a couple laps down and then I go, all right, I got to pick a secondary or a tertiary or a quaternary driver in order to give me the excitement that I want out of a race.
Is quaternary a word?
Yeah.
Did we make that one up?
No.
Oh, cool. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to break your chain, but just commenting.
So I think it depends on if you're a ticket holder or are you watching on TV or you listen on the radio, because I don't think it matters as much on the radio. Like if you really like just listening to the radio, like you're in your shop and you're like, I want to pound out, I'm going to fix a carburetor or whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to change the blade on my lawnmower. I'm going to just listen to the radio because they're more exciting. They get more animated, kind of like
Mason
we do.
said he does his laundry.
And I don't think it matters who's actually leading the race in that case, because it's such a different content that you're consuming.
I think Mick is right. I would say the battle for the lead is the biggest factor in what defines a good race. It's if we're given percentages, that might get like the 25%, and everything else, all the other 10 factors are below 25%. So I would agree that it's the biggest factor, but you can get 75% of other stuff, and it still be a good race. And to your point, Sherwin, how many times have we, been in the stands and watching our driver starting in 28th or starting at the back because they had to change something and move their way up and do something, and then finish second in a battle for the lead. That it wasn't not battle for the lead, but battle for get into the top 5, and we're like, yeah, that was awesome, good stuff. Or just being somewhere new, going to Phoenix, for example. I think being, like you said, being at a track and the way you consume it, that's the way you said it, and that's why I was mad that you stole my answer. Not stole it. Obviously, we're parallel thinking, I should say.
We're very well
one.
aligned.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
way we...
So I don't think I think it is the biggest factor. I don't think it is the are you pregnant or not factor. Did we have a lead change? Yes or no, or a battle for the lead for most of the time? Yes or no, and that determines if the race is a yes or no good. That's not the case, but I would say that's probably the biggest factor. Sure. So with that, fourth period, this is going to be fun, and Mason is going to kick us off on this. I'm excited. I think he's already kind of
good luck, Mason.
Yeah, good luck with this one. This is this is a pass-fail class. This is not a B, C, D, F, Z minus, etc. Or it could be if you want it to be. I don't care. But pass-fail. Should we run the All-Star package at the 600 is the question. After seeing such a entertaining, I would say entertaining race, the All-Star race, and seeing, what did we? I gave it a B for really more for the sake of we saw history, and I just enjoyed myself because of the environment. But less because of the race. Sherwin, you gave it the B minus, and we got a C minus from Mason. So, should we run that All-Star package at the 600? Make it, maybe we would have been B plus and A's and stuff. I don't know. So, Mason, your thoughts?
As bad as I want to say yes, I'm going to say no, just because it's not. If we do that, we might as well just go race Daytona every week because that's what it was.
My man.
So. No, I think I don't know really what needs to be done, but I think one of you hit on it earlier about tire wear, tire fall off, and we saw that in ARCA race there too. Tire wear and fall off, putting new tires on didn't matter, and that's the biggest thing that I think that creates better racing is having a tire that falls off. Obviously, you want something that's durable, but something that falls off because then that forces drivers to move around and aero becomes less dependent. So that's the biggest thing I think we can work on is just figuring out the tire game to be to fall off even more and stuff like that. But I would not run that package at the 600. And I'm kind of I don't think it's going to really matter. I think they're running that package at this weekend in the Xfinity Series at Pocono, and it might be a good race in Michigan, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference at Pocono because the corners are so much different. You have to slow down no matter what. So we'll see.
I think it is a great package for the Xfinity Series to run at Pocono and Indianapolis and maybe some other places. I don't know.
Well, especially with Indy being one of those Dash for Cash races or whatever.
And not anymore. They already did all of those.
Oh, good. But
those are all out of the way. They did it all like it was like Texas, Martinsville.
Well, and I guess the only bummer. So can Cup guys drive at Indy now?
Yes.
Bummer in Xfinity, but because that was one of them last year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I'd rather it be that.
And now it's
the
last race before the chase, or excuse me, the playoffs start.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's the weekend after Labor Day.
All this stuff changes so much. I need to be more in tune with this. I do a freaking podcast on NASCAR. You'd think I'd know more crap about
but we're not journalists. And then this is the constant reminder to the people that listen to
no idea
this
what's
nonsense is that we are not journalists. We are here for yours and our first, and then your entertainment. And luckily, really cool people like 2014 ARCA champion Mason Mitchell are willing to come on here.
Me and Weaver are on here more.
And Weaver's awesome. He's basically like our liaison. Not liaison. What's the right word? Like he's our professor on retainer.
Yeah.
He comes on just about every time we ask him to, which is awesome.
So you're giving it a fail too, the pass fail, not to run that on the 600.
Cup cars, please don't ever run that package again.
All right. We've got 2 fails. Obviously, I have to pass this. Then I have to try to give this a
don't
reason.
Make me throw a full beer at you.
Got to. So here's the thing, though. Boy, I really love what Mason said about tire fall off. You had said it too, Sherwin. The tire stuff, and that's what we see at Atlanta. And so this is what's got me scratching my head right now, physically and figuratively and everything. Is we saw that at Atlanta. Obviously, we see that in Atlanta. The tire fall off is so huge. But we also see dominance in Atlanta, and we saw tire fall off, being a huge thing. We're talking about 1 and 2 seconds, 2 seconds in a 30-second, or 29-second track. We're talking about 2 seconds with tire fall off, but we still have domination. What if you take away Kyle Busch, or if you add back Harvick, like you said, Sherwin? What happens in that? So I'd like
tear
to
off
see
the splitter.
Well, tear off the splitter.
I mean, the cream's always going to rise to the top. You change the package at the All-Star race. Kevin Harvick still went out there and dominated. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so
the package thing.
I'm going to quote Rick Mast.
Okay.
Is that in NASCAR, you have to occasionally be willing to appreciate somebody putting an ass ripping on the field. You have to appreciate somebody go out in there and just kicking everybody's butt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was ready to pass this the whole time and try to make a case for it, even though, I'm just really trying to be devil's advocate all the way up until Mason said, well, we might as well just go run Daytona every week. I'm like, damn it, that beats my argument.
Yeah. Where's that Staples easy button?
Yeah, that was easy. So I want to say pass Sherwin. I can't do it because I just can't defend it.
I think you can sneak one in there. Like maybe, if Kansas or somewhere like that. Yeah, well, actually, Kansas has been putting on some pretty good races, but
yes,
maybe at a track like so. Let's talk about Pocono. We're in Pocono this weekend. Mm-hmm. They have 2 races 7 weeks apart.
Mm-hmm.
One way to generate interest might be to run a wildly different package.
Totally agree. Yeah,
at those races.
Yeah,
and both of them being in the regular season, if you will, air quotes. Pocono might be a place where the Cup cars could to try this out, or something similar. However you want to do it.
Yeah.
Just so that you create 2 wildly different races. Like, they've already just done it with Charlotte. We haven't seen it yet. We don't know if it's going to be any good or not. But Charlotte has 2 races, and they're going to be wildly different races because one is open package that we saw just this past weekend, and then they're going to run the Roval, which will be a road course package and be, just like I said, not to overuse the phrase, but wildly different. I don't know that – I think there's room in there if I'm, conceding a little bit. I think there's room in there to bring something like what we saw at the All-Star race into the Cup Series. They need to be very careful with how they approach it.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Mason, doing 2 different with – I totally agree with Sherwin.
Michigan's
with those
the same way. Their races
Michigan
are
is pretty
9
close.
weeks apart.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm this is even a wilder idea. I'm more open to the idea of just like Pocono. You got to think about it turn 1's got a good amount of banking, but the turn 2 and 3 are really flat, so it's hard to race side by side there, anyways. And I'm more of the idea of some of the tracks. This is a crazy idea now, but right against the wall in turn 3, go in there and repave a groove or 2 groove widths, fresh pavement. And now you're going to have options. You can go around the bottom like usual, or you can go right against the wall. And you're going to have way fresher grip. They did that, they were forced into that, 10 years ago, whenever it was. And it was 3/4 of the way up in the middle of the turn. And it kind of gave you some options. But I'm talking it right against the wall. But do that at some of those tracks where you never see, you're always right against the bottom or something that, you could have that option. Where I think of on the ARCA schedule, a place I love personally is Salem, which puts on a great show, but go and repave, clear down the bottom in 1 and 2 where it's flat and you don't ever run there, but it's got fresh pavement. So maybe your turns, try a different in the corner, stuff like that. So I don't know, I'm just thinking different options, and I look at like a place like Bowman Gray. If they made like a Bowman Gray, but right against the wall, they had it like banked, 10, 12 degrees, where I'm like, not the whole track is banked, just like right up against the wall, there's a groove that's banked. So you could slide in there and run up against like that, or you can run against the bottom. There's a picture from a way back in the day. I can't remember what track it is, but it literally was like a groove, width wide, and it was banked a good like 20 degrees, and cars were just ripping around the top of it. It was a really cool photo. I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. But I don't know, it's a crazy idea, but I'm just thinking of options and different ways to be able to race side by side or go into a corner instead of being right behind somebody, because how everything's so damn aero dependent nowadays. It's so frustrating when you have to go run the same line, but you just keep, the worse you get back in traffic, it's harder to pass.
Yeah, so that's like very much the dirt track mentality there, right? So the people that want to cut down, low, that have that skill to run a tight car versus the people that want to run high and stay in the gas. We have very intimate relationship with the grip strip at Pocono. We make jokes about seeing a little bit of paved pavement on a highway and just stomping the gas when we hit it, because Casey came from the front to the back to the front and won his first race at Pocono when they paved that third groove at Pocono and in turn 3. And Junior's been talking about it for 2 years on his podcast. He's like, go put that grip strip back down there. I promise you'll see some cool stuff.
Or get creative with the boogers, the VH1, PV1, H69, whatever we're calling it this week. We can play with that a little more.
Biffle's special serum.
Special serum, yeah. Darrell Waltrip special sauce. I love it. We should come up with something. Yeah, I like the Darrell Waltrip barbecue sauce. Something.
I totally agree with that.
Maybe he'll go on like an hour rant about that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you could, that grip strip, I mean, that changed. So it was within 2 or 3 years that they actually paved the whole track after that, because Pocono was falling apart. But that's not a bad way to introduce a different condition that might change the way people race depending on what their style is.
Yeah.
The grip strip.
Let's go to fifth period. I don't
Recess.
This isn't. No, this is fifth. Even though, hey, school's out for most people.
I do that every week, by the way.
School's out for most people. Did you always just skip fifth period? It's like, hey, I'm
No, I just, every time you say fifth period, I think that's recess. I forget there's actually 6 segments.
This one doesn't really have a grade associated with it, but we kind of have to mention, and Mason mentioned earlier, it's Danica's curtain call. Unfortunately ended after what I would consider a pretty darn decent run at the 500. She
was in the Fast 9. She had a shot at the pole. She started 7th.
Yeah, it's hard to give her a grade here, but maybe especially from a driver's standpoint and an owner's standpoint, Mason, talk about her legacy in the sport and in racing overall.
Well, she's done, an amazing job for younger girls that are trying to look into the racing, to get involved in racing and open up so many different avenues and open up the eyes of the general public. I feel like, as far as girls being appreciated and respected in the sport, given an opportunity and chance, and it's tough with being a male-dominated sport and not seeing a lot of girls succeed. So obviously there were some moments throughout her career that there were some trying moments, some tough moments, but she really did a good job. At certain points throughout the career, she had that big win in IndyCar series. She had some good runs in the Stock Car deal. Sometimes, didn't go the way everybody I felt like expected, and it was unfortunate. I was, personally really pulling for her in her last runs in Stock Cars and her run at Daytona and IndyCar run. And I like seeing feel-good stories and seeing people like that go out on a high note. And it's unfortunate what happened, but I think, her next chapter in her life she's looking forward to.
Sure, when I was growing up, my dad would call me over to some sports thing every once in a while, and he would be like, you need to watch this just so you know, now you can say you watched that. You don't know what that means yet, but you need to be able to watch that. And there was one point I'm watching the 500, and Serena, my wife, sitting behind me, she was either playing a video game or she was running around doing something. And I said, hey, come watch this. Come here, watch this. And she's going, what? And I'm like, this is Danica's curtain call. This is the end when it started. And then when she was wrecking, I said, hey, come back. This is Danica Zen. And she, following racing vis-a-vis myself, but, she follows all this stuff. And she gave I wish I could bring her up here right now. She's downstairs doing something right now, but I wish I could bring her up here to give the same soliloquy that she gave, or monologue, right after that. She was like, all right, because I said, this is the end of, this is the last thing in Danica's career right here, unfortunately wrecking out. And she said something like, darn it, Danica. She's like, but you really did a whole lot. She's like, I feel so much, like, I don't know how to put it, because she was the one who put it, but
pride, maybe?
Serena felt so much pride, is the way to put it, in you go girl kind of stuff. That a way to do it, and really made her feel good. And I think that's the perspective that I love to hear, is from somebody who's not, a bunch of males in a male-dominated sport trying to break down what the female in the sport means. Like, hearing it from my own wife going, all right, Danica, good job. I really, really respect and love what you've done for the sport. I'm like, that's cool.
So, speaking of Danica, did you listen to Bill Burr's interview with her?
No. Those are two of my favorite people.
I would recommend everyone go do this, especially if you like stand-up comedy. If you like stand-up comedy, you're probably already aware that Bill Burr is podium in the world.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to put him first, second, or third, that's where he's at. That's the level he's at. He went to the Indianapolis 500 because he's a sports junkie like we are. He has a bucket list every year, and he picks events like the National Football Championship and the Indianapolis 500 to go to. He got to interview Danica Patrick for almost an hour.
That's
just
incredible. Talking
to her. And it was a Bill Burr podcast, which means, hey, don't listen to it out loud around your kids because there's language. But it was so good because Bill doesn't know a whole lot about racing, but he wants to. He started this year his segment about F1. He hadn't learned yet what we've learned about that whole qualifying is all that matters thing. But anyway, I would encourage everyone to listen to the Monday morning podcast with Bill Burr. I think it's last week's Monday edition was an interview with
definitely going to listen to that.
Danica Patrick.
That brings us to recess. Sherwin, there's no grade here. There's nothing else, but I need to make a new drink. But let's go ahead and cheers this week. And Mason, you didn't know this coming in, but and we didn't really celebrate it or whatever. But this week marks the 3-year anniversary of the PTM podcast. How about that?
Hell yeah!
So, yeah, cheers.
Congrats.
So we last 3. Year one is very. I'll take my drink. Year one is very much like, yeah, first year. Year two is kind of like, yeah, we did it again. We survived. Year 3 is kind of like turning 34 years old or something, or 36. That I'm fixing to turn 36, and I'm like, well, 36 ain't. That's just closer to 40. It's all you're doing.
Yeah. That's what 37 feels like too, by the way, just in case you weren't aware.
From the guy a year and change older than me. So
I knew we were close to the mark. So this is
3 years.
episode 149. So in 3 years, we've only missed 6 weeks.
It's impressive.
Or 7 weeks.
We're crazy.
Actually, we deleted one because we caught somebody saying something they didn't want to be public in the after show of the YouTube. So we deleted it.
Oh, no, it went back up.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, did you edit it?
Yeah, I just edited it.
Okay. So anyway, and basically what we've done is we've produced 50 episodes a year in 3 years, and we're pretty damn proud of that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, you never want to pat your own self on the back. That's what I'm not what I'm trying to do here.
No, but it's a point of pride of saying that you accomplished something.
We've done something for 3 years. That's pretty cool. I haven't done a whole lot in my life for 3 years. Shoot.
The job that I'm in now is the first one that I've had for over 3 years.
There you go. It's time for the Ask PTM questions, and Mason, these come straight to you. And the first few here actually have to do with the recent purchase of ARCA by NASCAR. And Kathleen at KHI fan, she says she's been a long-time ARCA fan, and she's a little nervous about the changes that coming with NASCAR taking over the series. She's afraid it might lose the personality of the series and stuff, especially if there's big change in the tracks that ARCA is going to. So talk to us about the tracks. And she also said, as a team owner and series champion, do you and other owners or talk to us about, I guess, the involvement that you've had in any of the discussions around that thus far. I'm curious if there's any, been anything there.
For sure. I mean, honestly, I don't have a lot more detail than the general public, to be honest. But nothing's going to change tomorrow. Nothing's going to change next year. The whole transition goes into effect in 2020. So, at first, I won't lie, I was a little nervous of the change and everything because I've been such a huge ARCA advocate for these many years that I've been involved in it. But on the bright side, I think there's a lot of things that could benefit the series, benefit the drivers, and everybody involved that NASCAR has to offer with just being able to pull the strings that NASCAR can. As far as the schedule goes, I have no clue what they're going to do the schedule. I have no clue what the rules change. I don't know anything about that. I hope they do keep majority of the schedule intact. We go to the most diverse series in the country, I believe, with super speedway, short tracks, intermediates, dirt tracks, road courses. So that part of it's really interesting and really cool and good for the drivers. But as far as details and anything that you guys or the fans don't know and you want to know, I don't have any answers because I think everybody's in the same boat. So we'll just ride the wave and keep on moving along day by day.
That's very interesting to me that there just hadn't been a whole lot of communication either way. So there you go. I guess stay tuned is the answer to that, Kathleen, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. And Mason sounds
I really
like
wish I could tell you more, but I don't have anything.
Sounds like you just take it in stride, whatever happens, and then we'll hopefully get out on the other side. Andrew Kansian at KHANTZIAN. Do you a very similar question? Do you worry that the diverse schedule will become kind of a glorified Truck Xfinity schedule when that merger is implemented? What are your are there any worries that you have right now about it, or things that you would like NASCAR to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't turn into that because I feel like we have such a great product right now. It's pretty obvious how ARCA's kicking butt with the growing car counts. The competition on track has been really good this year. There's 15 cars at least that can compete for wins. The field is obviously bigger than that, but from quality cars that can show up to contend for a win, there's that many. So I'm not really scared about. Hopefully the schedule doesn't change and going forward. And the biggest thing I feel like NASCAR can offer that ARCA's always lacked is the marketing side of it, the social media side, the digital media side, the promotion side of it, that can take the series, take the drivers and the teams to that next level, and be on that national platform.
So the rest of our questions get into kind of the fun part here. Your buddy and ours, the Orange Cone, at the Orange Cone, he says, who's more bat poop crazy, Alex Jones or the Cone?
I've never heard of Orange Cone. Who is that guy? I'm kidding.
Oh, boom, man.
Shakalaka.
Yeah, face.
Definitely the Orange Cone.
All right, you hear that, Cone.
I love it. So, Sherwin, I brought up, because I had seen this.
He's been in the timeline, by the way.
I had seen this before. Alex Jones. I don't know anything, or I shouldn't say anything. I don't know much about this guy at all, except he hosts some radio show, and he is really bat poop crazy. Like I don't care if you like follow him or
racing or what.
No, he's political.
Politics?
So let's not get into the political stuff.
Oh, let's stay away.
But he's
away from
he's like way crazy. So there's these people who've put up these mashups of him just doing these like weird groaning things that he does, like. And they put it to heavy metal music in the background. They're like, dude, he would be a great death metal vocalist. So I'm going to play for you death metal with Alex Jones. This is all one take, too, by the way. This is not like clips all put together. This is one take of Alex Jones with heavy metal or death metal in the background. Here goes. And I'm only going to play like 10, 20 seconds of it. This is his show, dude. We need to start doing this.
What in the world?
Evidently, that's what's popular.
This is a radio guy? TV?
Don't go look it up. You're gonna get mad.
Okay.
Right now, let's look it up in the after show.
All right.
But oh my goodness.
That's funny.
It's that stuff is hilarious. There's also everybody who's listening right now. Go look up Alexa Jones. It's the Alex Jones as the voice of Alexa, and you ask it stuff. And I mean, he talks about stuff like different heavy metal music is turning frogs gay and stuff. Like that's how bat poop crazy he is. And so
he's like
this stuff doesn't even make sense. So
he's that tinfoil hat. He's like uranium foil hat.
So obviously the orange cone is more crazy, is what I'm saying.
Well, clearly,
without a doubt.
We all know that.
Oh, we've got one more question from the posse. This comes from a mystery guest, Mason, or a mystery person, and this person asks, Mason, there was a trip to Grandma's on Christmas Day a few years back that got a little dicey. What happened there?
Oh God! I'm trying to. When that first got asked, I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I think I know exactly what. And I think I know who that person is.
We know people. We know people.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Give us a scoop.
I think I don't know how old I was. I was old enough to drive, but obviously, I'm from Iowa, so the winter roads and everything. That's where I've got. That's where I've learned That's where my skills have developed there in the winter roads, but not that day.
So you like loose race cars, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I've had so many close calls on the road. Oh my God! But anyways, that day, I was in my mom's car with my brother and sister. We were heading to my grandma's, and literally still in the neighborhood. I was doing my best Ken Block impersonation and a little misjudgment, and I nicked the curb with the right rear tire. I didn't hit
the curb.
And
I think it was the toe out of
it. Yeah. So I made the call, to come in the pits, park the car, get the backup out, and take another car to the grandma's.
That is excellent. And, I love that way of answering it. That comes from Mitchell 24. That's Marlene Mitchell, Mason's own mother. So I love that answer.
Thanks, Marlene, for playing along.
I love it. So with
I love it. I have like all these great moments through all my career about winning or awesome passing and stuff. But people got to talk about that one bad time, freaking Christmas.
There's only
but it's the one that brings you back to like the human spirit,
right?
Like we all screw up.
With that, let's go ahead and gas it up. We're not going to Pocono, but our friends across the pond, MOATF.
Yeah, they are.
They're headed
David
that way.
And Andrew are.
Yeah. So David, Andrew, hope y'all have some fun and y'all be sure to go follow them at MOATF Podcast. I'm sure they're going to give some excellent content from the track and around the track.
Nothing like a British perspective on the sport of NASCAR.
Absolutely. I still say if they're not wearing cut-off T-shirts with the Union Jack on it,
they have to.
You have to. You have to at that point. It's impossible not to. So with that, we've talked about Pocono quite a bit with you, Mason. Let's go straight into what our picks are going to be, which means I have to play another thing here that I wasn't prepared for yet. Where is it?
Where are all the drops?
I need to put this one more like up on the list or something because I always have trouble finding it, and all I'm doing right now is trying to stall. I can't find the freaking thing. There it is. Okay. Drivers, start your engine! There it is. Next time I'll come a little more prepared.
My man,
Dale Jr. saying
Dale Jr.
Start your engine. It's time to do some picks.
2014.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mason, let's get your pick in the Cup Series for Pocono.
Kevin Harvick.
Kevin Harvick. Wow.
Well, that's not a terrible pick.
Not a terrible pick. Yeah. When's the last
Might as well go with a front runner.
I don't think he's ever won at Pocono either. So that's actually
he knocked Joey out of the way and won. Remember your wife wears the fire suit race?
But I don't think he won that one.
Yeah, he did.
No,
he didn't.
No, he finished. I was watching that race today. He finished like top 5.
Oh, okay, good call,
Rusty. Harvick does not have a win at Pocono. I don't ask me why I know this.
I always question Rusty on things that sound weird to me, and I'm always
wrong.
Every time.
Last year to blame.
I'm wrong every single time.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, and Junior, a few years ago. So Sherwin, where you at?
Well, man, I've been way heavy on those Penske Fords lately. So I think I'm going to turn tail and say this is the race where the Chevrolets make a comeback.
Am I going to have to improvise here on my pick because I was about to pick a Chevy? Who you got?
No, I'm going to go with a Toyota.
No,
first time winner Danielle Suarez.
Oh, cool. Okay. And I'm picking Chase Elliott. And it feels like a race where somebody new, whether it be Kevin Harvick because that's new for him, or it be some of the young guns coming into this. It feels like a race that can happen. We saw Chris Buescher do it 2 years ago. Ryan Blaney last year. I mean, this is a place where that can happen. So I might as well call it happening. Of course, Kyle Busch is the person who won the last race here. So
of course he is.
So who knows what will happen there.
I think Mason may have got the best pick there.
Kenseth has a win here a few years ago.
Yeah, it was fuel mileage.
Yeah.
And Chris Buescher's was rain shortened.
Yep.
So you have to factor all those things.
Fog shortened. Let's get it right.
Fog shortened. That's a good point. With that, it takes us to we mentioned, Mason, that we had a strange question. Do you know Ashley J. Stang of Stang Racing, Stang Motorsports?
Yeah.
You do. She is the one who sends us the irreverent question every week. And so if you know her, you probably know that she sends irreverent stuff all over the place. But she sends...
Right. What is her new name
crazy
on Twitter
question.
Is the
Uneffable with
F-withable.
Yeah. So she asked us this week, and we'll give you some time to think because me and Sherwin have seen this question already. She says, what's the worst tasting thing that you've ever had in your mouth, and how the F did it end up there? Sherwin, do you have an answer for this one?
Oh, I'm wide open on this. This is perfect for me.
All right. I'll start because I think you probably have a better one. Here's the deal. So, Jelly Belly has come out. I've ate some crappy stuff, y'all, but let me tell you, Jelly Belly came out with this challenge thing. If you give me a food challenge, I'm all in. We're going to do the food challenge, and it's called Bean Boozled. Okay. And so what it is, they give you this package of jelly beans, and there's 5 different colors. But
this was mine too. Damn.
Oh, it was. So each color has 2 different flavers.
All right. So hopefully your color that you thought was grossest is different, Mason.
One of them's good. One of them's gross. Right. Yeah. And it's supposed to be funny gross. One of them was lime. Was a good one, and then grass clippings was the bad one, right? And you eat it, and even if you get the grass clippings, you're like, I'm the idiot, ha ha ha, grass clippings.
Who didn't eat grass as a kid?
Right. And there's there was one that was one of them's peach, the other one's barf, and if you get the barf, you're laughing, whatever. One of them's pear, and the other one's booger. You're like, ha ha ha, this isn't pear, it must be booger. That's funny. Dude, I got pissed at one, and it was the most vile, disgusting thing. They don't even make this one anymore. They don't allow them to produce this because people were straight up barfing and this was an issue. And the good one was licorice, black licorice. It was the black jelly bean, and the good one was licorice. Now, luckily, I do like black licorice just fine. There's a lot of people who don't. I understand it's a polarizing taste.
Dad.
So I'm not gonna judge anybody, but I like that just fine. The bad one was skunk.
Oh!
And skunk, I had already had grass clippings and I laughed, and I had booger and I laughed. I had skunk and I went, no, we're not playing anymore. This is the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. This is terrible. So the worst thing I've ever eaten, or the worst tasting thing, was skunk jelly bean. Sherwin?
Okay, so this happened a couple of months ago. I guess it's probably been 3 now. This happened this year, okay? So, like, in redneck style, it happened the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at Taco Mac, which is a local eatery and drinkery that's prevalent in the Atlanta metro area. I'm with my people that I go do that with after work hours and have a couple cold pops.
Yep.
And you know what? They have a little app where you can select a beer that you haven't tried yet. It's pretty neat. It's interesting. It's like a, it's like a little scorecard. You have to keep score on how many different ones you tried. And so there was one in there that just sounded like, okay, well, this sounds like the next one on the list.
It was called Skunk Jelly Bean Beer?
No, it was not actually, but we'll get there in just a second.
But it was deceiving?
Yeah, it was from Omaha Brewing, which is a Georgia brewery, an Atlanta Metro brewery.
Not a good name for a brewery that's in Georgia called Omaha.
Right.
So,
that's your first clue.
There's the first problem.
There's your first clue. And it was called the Blackberry Winter Warm. All right.
That
so a
sounds
winter warmer is a spiced kind of
Blackberry
beer.
is indigenous
Blackberry
to
is an
Georgia.
indigenous
That's good.
fruit. Georgia, well known for blackberries. And so I thought, well, I'll just try this beer out. And never mind you that it's an 11-ounce pour.
So it's heavy.
It costs $9.
Oh, geez. So it's motor oil.
So, and I didn't really look at the menu to be sure that was the case. But so, it comes in one of those things that looks like a wine glass, like a squatty wine glass.
Pinky out.
Yeah, pinky out beer is what we call them. Then, that's got the little, flower at the bottom, like like it's got a stem, a bulb, a stem, and then like a base.
Yeah.
And so when they over pour it, it flows over. Like a lot of it gets trapped on that, and then so when they bring it to you, like some of it will get on the table and wherever else.
Sure.
And so the server put it down and like kind of like one of those like magnetic cup things, like so she put it like a streak that was like 2 feet long across the table, and I got a whiff, and I was like, boy, my smeller is broken today.
Right.
I was like, because that smells like a healthy combination of diarrhea and vomit. And so I like kind of elbow the guy next to me. I'm like, Jeff, can you like kind of nose over here and
just give me a fair
little data point here on whether I'm in the right, what frame of mind on what this thing smells like? And he goes, oh, damn. And I'm like, that's kind of what I thought. And so, unbeknownst to here's the really funny part about that. This is a long story. This is like a Bert Kreischer story. At the bar, so the bartenders had been systematically targeting all their regular customers, making them try this beer because of how horrific it is. And so when they saw her pour a full 11-ounce glass of one, they're like,
oh, they gathered round?
Who in the hell ordered that? And like she points over at me, and I don't know any of this is going on.
Right.
Because I'm just I'm interacting with 5 other people here at the table. And so, like, the thing comes, and I smell it, and I'm like, God almighty. I try it, and they go, well, it don't taste as bad as it smells, which is impossible, right? It's usually the other way around. Yeah. But I kind of, like, have one of those.
Oh, shoot. You had a thing?
And then I'm like, all right, I'm not having this. I'm not sending it back. So I pinched my nose, put my head back, and I just chugged it.
Oh, wow.
It's only 11 ounces.
Wow.
And I almost didn't get the last sip in without kind of a little gurgle. But all the guys at the bar were watching this go down, and they systematically came over and shook my hand. It's like,
gave you
hey,
props.
Man, I can't believe you just drank that beer. And I'm like, I wish I hadn't.
Right. I'm in a bad way now. This sucks.
It literally tastes like the exact amalgamation of what vomit and diarrhea smells like if you just squash those things together.
Oh, man. Roger just reminded us, reversal of fortune.
Oh, yeah. No reversal of fortune.
No reversal
of fortune. There was no reversal of fortune.
Mason, you've had some time now, and it sounds like you might have a jelly bean in mind.
Yeah, I do. I actually do have a real food experience, but I do have the jelly bean was similar, and my experience with the jelly bean was like in my 7th grade math class. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was part of a project or something, but at the time it was these Harry Potter jelly beans. But it was the same thing. It was like grass, soap, vomit. It was all nasty as hell. And but my real food story was last year at Michigan. Me and a few of the crew guys got in before the rest of the team, and we were, I think, downtown Ann Arbor or something. And we went to this, and all these restaurants I had never heard of before. So we went to some local place here, and it was definitely the Millennial Hangout, and went in there, and the menu was so weird. It was out of this world. I had no clue what I was looking at. I'm like, you guys got a cheeseburger? And it was like all this stuff, flatbread stuff. It was weird. So I got this sandwich and had some type of side with it that I never heard of before. But anyways, the sandwich came out, and the rest of the guys there got their food, and they're eating it and stuff. And I grab it, and it had an egg on it as well. I think that was the only thing I knew that was on it.
The only thing I knew.
And so I grabbed it, and I'm getting ready to take a bite out of it, and I smell it, and I'm like, whoa, oh, and it smelled like old wet dog.
Oh no!
I was like, oh, I got that like sensation in my throat about throwing up. I tried to force myself to eat some of it. I ate a few bites of it, and when I didn't smell it, or I could actually eat it, but I just couldn't do it any longer. And I remember one of my guys like, what's wrong? I'm like, you smell this damn thing. And so I lifted up a plate to him, and he's like, whoa, oh my God. And I ended up, I think, going to a drive-thru or something. I got a free meal though, so that was all good. But
there you go.
My God, that was that was an awful experience.
Well, with
I hope Ashley's proud of herself.
Well, yeah, with skunk jelly beans, wet dog sandwiches, and diarrhea beers, it's time to close this thing out. Mason, close us out. Tell her, first off, thank you so much for hanging out and having fun. We've been having so much fun. We've gone probably over our time limit here, but appreciate you being on. And tell the folks where they can find you and what's coming up next.
Nah, it's always fun being on podcasts, and you guys, it's an honor to be on yours, and it's cool that you guys done this for 3 years, and keep it going, and let me know if I can, whatever I can do to come back on. It was a blast. But this weekend we're racing at Pocono. You can follow me at Twitter, on Twitter at the Mason Race, and follow the team at MMM_race. We're on Instagram, Mason Mitchell Motorsports, Facebook, Mason Mitchell Motorsports. The race is going to be live on Fox Sports 2, I believe. So hopefully we get it in. The rain stays away. If not, we'll figure out a rain date and make it happen. So once again, like I said, man, it was a blast to be on here, and I can keep on talking for many more hours.
And, that goes both ways.
Exactly the kind of guest we want.
That goes both ways. We can't wait to have you on the next time. With that, y'all, we'll close this thing down. You're going to hear from us next week, of course. I think it's going to be like a Monday show, Sherwin.
Yes.
Sherwin's doing some traveling, so look out for that coming up. As always, y'all know where to find us, PTMPodcast.com. At PTM Podcast on the Twitter handle. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor. I'm Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor, Sherwin.
Yeah. And I'm Andrew Sherwin at Pregame Engineer on Twitter and at Andrew L. Sherwin on Instagram. Rusty's right. I'm traveling next week. I'll be on the Lap Traffic Podcast on Tuesday. I'll be joining Brandon Crowd in Detroit, Michigan on Thursday morning to go to MIS. That's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We'll be doing some interesting things up there for sure.
Hell yeah. So with that, we'll talk to y'all next week. Thanks for joining, and have a good one.
One last thing. PTM Posse, Jensen Jorgensen won his race.
Oh, my God. Yes, that's like 10 in a row in Atlanta, y'all. Woo! We're going to be reporting that one. See y'all later. Woo! And we are faded out.
Fade to black.
Yeah,
well,
Mason, we're still live on the YouTube, but otherwise, that was the end of the show. That was one of our longer ones recently, and the length is a direct proportion to how much fun we have. So,
yeah, it's a matter of forgetting how much time has passed. Really, Mason, we really appreciate all your time. We hope that you and your team have the utmost success that you can have, and obviously. And we hope the rain.
As it turns out, Mason actually
Did he hang up already?
Yeah.
All right.
They
so
left
cool.
Us. So we're just
So we're just talking into the ethos here.
Oh, that was awesome. That was a blast. It was cool to have him on. We'll be sure to give him the thanks and the props that he deserves as soon as we get back in touch with him. So thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for hanging out. And we're Sherwin, I'm excited for Monday. I'm so excited for you and Brandon next week going.
Well, yeah, I want to shout out who we're going to have on next week. That's two girls, fast cars, fast girls. They're IndyCar fans. They did a whole lot of coverage from Indy. So, like we started
cool.
On the front end, we did Pocono like 2 weeks in advance. We're going to do Indy like a week post.
Does Indy race this weekend? Like, do I need to watch?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they take a couple of weeks off before they go again.
Okay. Because I need to watch the latest race if I'm going to talk to somebody that knows way more about Indy than I do.
Well, so I'm going to go to IndyCar right now while you're messing around with getting it posted up, and I'll let you know. Oh shit, we do. Indy races the dual Belle Isle. Actually, it drew some scrutiny in the media this week.
Oh, yeah?
Because some people were whining, complaining about how Belle Isle is a publicly owned park, and it gets shut down in some perspective for a couple of months. So for them to set the race up, but like
first world problems, get over it.
It wouldn't even exist. The island, as it is, wouldn't even exist in its current state if Roger Penske hadn't have just funneled money to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do
get
you? I mean,
right over that.
Find something else to bitch about immediately.
No kidding. Well, YouTube and PTM Posse, thank y'all for joining. This has been an absolute blast.
Also,
Hope y'all
Bravo's won 4-2.
And Jensen, let's not downplay that. Holy crap, we got to talk about that next week.
Oh, and they are all stickered up, man. The fast cars going loud was all up on the right side fender well of the right rear fender well.
Oh man, I got to see that.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
So his girlfriend sent it to us.
Oh, cool. Okay.
At PTM, Trish, excuse me.
Trish, she's a trooper.
Yeah, no kidding.
She's awesome. So yeah, let's talk about that next
Presley.
week. Trish Presley, awesome. All right, y'all. With that, we're gonna
and you can follow her at TM Presley 24.
Yeah. So we'll talk to y'all very soon. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next week, Monday.
Woo woo.
Peace out.